The title of this video is clearly to get your attention, and I want you to take some time to play the warframes that I have included on this guide. Before we begin, I would like to share some context of why I decided to create this guide. First of all, most of the data about meta warframes and the most broken abilities in Warframe are gathered within the Warframe Stats Survey released by Digital Extremes. As most of you all know, the meta always talks about warframes like Revenant with his insane invulnerability, or how good Nourish as a subsume ability is. We will not talk about that here. What we will discuss here are those overpowered warframes and their abilities that actually can break the game. So, I know you are kind of interested now, so let's begin this video first with the most obvious warframe on this list, and that is Octavia. You see, only a few players wants to play Octavia, not because she's a bad warframe or she's confusing to play with. In fact, Octavia's playstyle is pretty straightforward, and all you need to do is cast Metronome 2 and teabag your way to infinite invisibility. Then, drop your mallet and increase its range with your ultimate skill. After that, just watch enemies die with their own damage. You see, mallet is one of the most broken skill in Warframe, as it has infinite damage scaling. The higher the damage the enemies deal to the skill, the bigger the reflect damage. In addition, the reflect damage is true damage and can melt level cap enemies easily. When it comes to killing power, Octavia is one of the Queen of Death in Warframe, but sadly, she's not popular because her ability only excels in level cap missions such as survival. You can still make mallet good with the resonator, as it will attract enemies and move around. In addition, you can still survive just by keeping your invisibility running all the time. But that's the main problem why players don't like the Warframe. It needs too many button presses to survive and kill enemies, and some players find it boring to sit in a corner watching enemies die with the mallet skill. Nonetheless, Octavia's mallet is one of the most insane damage scaling skills in the game. Speaking of damage scaling, let's talk also about the Glass Queen Gara. The Warframe Splinter Storm is one of the best defense and damage powers in Warframe. At first, it looks like a simple ability. You cast it, and glass shards spin around Gara or an ally. These shards cut enemies who come close and lower how much damage you take. But there's more to it. What makes Splinter Storm so strong is that the damage keeps going up with no set limit. It builds damage by absorbing hits from another power called Shatter Lash. When you hit a glass wall from Mass Vitrify with Shatter Lash, that hit adds to your storm's damage, and you can keep doing this over and over. Each time you do, Splinter Storm gets deadlier. That's what makes it scale so well. It never stops growing as long as you keep feeding it. You can start with low damage and end up melting high-level enemies in seconds. Most powers in the game fall off at some point. Not Splinter Storm. If you play it right, it gets stronger the longer you stay in a mission. That's rare in this game. It makes Gara a solid pick for long runs like Steel Path or endurance missions. Her damage doesn't just scale, it snowballs. The damage scaling isn't the only good thing. Splinter Storm also gives strong defense. It cuts incoming damage by a big %, which helps Gara stay alive. You can cast it on allies too, so it's useful in squads, but it really shines in solo play. You don't need to rely on teammates. You can build up damage by yourself and still take less damage from enemies. Even with little range or strength, the power stays useful. That's why Gara is flexible. You can use different builds and still get results. Some players go for a high ability strength build to boost scaling. Others focus on duration to keep the storm going longer. Either way, the storm keeps ticking. It slices enemies fast when built up, and it works even on tough targets. You can walk through mobs and just let them die. That makes it great for clearing rooms or defending spots. Add in mods like Molten Impact or Condition Overload, and the damage ramps up faster. Gara doesn't need fancy combos or high skill. Once you learn how to feed Splinter Storm, it becomes a deadly tool that's easy to control. It's simple, strong, and scales forever. That's what makes it one of the best powers in the game. Next, let's talk about Banshee. This Warframe sonar ability is one of the strongest damage powers in Warframe. It shows weak spots on enemies that boost your damage. When you hit the glowing spot, your damage gets multiplied by a huge number. This isn't a small bonus, it's massive. With high ability strength, each weak spot can give over 1,000% more damage. You can even stack them. Recasting sonar adds more weak spots with more multipliers. This stacks damage to insane levels. You don't need special weapons. Even a weak gun can one-shot high-level enemies with sonar. That's why Banshee is so strong. She doesn't boost damage a little, she makes it skyrocket, and the skill works on anything. Bosses, Eximus units, acolytes, they all melt if you aim right. You can hit the damage cap in seconds. It's not hard to reach billions of damage with the right build. Sonar isn't flashy, but the numbers speak for themselves. If you want raw damage, this is one of the best skills in the game. It gets even better with the augment mod Resonance. With this mod, sonar spreads on kill. When you kill an enemy that had a weak spot, it triggers sonar again. It sends new weak spots to other enemies nearby. This makes the damage chain across groups without you doing anything. Just kill one target and the rest light up. It saves time and keeps your flow going. You don't have to recast as often. The skill spreads itself. In busy missions, it never stops. You can walk into a crowd, shoot one enemy, and the rest start glowing. That's the power of Resonance. It turns Banshee from a slow support into a fast killer. And since sonar doesn't cost much energy, you can spam it all day. With high strength and resonance, you can stack 3 or more weak spots on a single enemy. Each one multiplies your damage more. Add a good gun, and it takes only one shot to kill anything. Even the hardest enemies fall over. Banshee is squishy, but her power makes up for it. She doesn't need to tank hits. She ends fights before they start. That's why sonar is so deadly. It's not just strong, it's simple, fast, and spreads like wildfire. Next, let's talk about Zephyr. This Warframe's turbulence is one of the best defense powers in Warframe. When it's active, bullets curve away from her. It doesn't just block a few shots, it makes most gunfire miss her completely. Enemies will keep shooting, but they won't hit. It works against almost everything except melee attacks or beams. That means you can run into danger and not worry about being shot. You can stay safe while moving, reloading, or aiming. It gives Zephyr a big edge in open areas and crowded maps. You don't need high armor or shields when bullets can't land. Turbulence stays up for a long time and only costs a bit of energy. You can recast it anytime. Even at high levels, it still blocks damage. You can fight groups of enemies without hiding or dodging. It's not just defense, it gives freedom to move and play how you want. That's what makes it so strong. You're not stuck behind cover or forced to play slow. You stay in control the whole time. Now add Tailwind to the mix, and Zephyr becomes almost untouchable. This power lets her dash or glide through the air. If you hold it while aiming, she floats like a balloon. That might sound funny, but it works. Being in the air makes turbulence even better. Most enemies shoot at ground level. While gliding, their bullets miss even more often. You stay above the fight, safe and clear. Zephyr can shoot down from the air while the ground enemies waste ammo. You're not just harder to hit, you're almost impossible to touch. And since Tailwind can be maintained with lots of energy efficiency setup right now, you can eventually be in the air most of the time. Pair that with Turbulence, and you can solo hard missions without fear. It's perfect for spy missions, defense, or open-world bounties. You can fly through maps without getting hit once. It feels like cheating, but it's just smart skill use. Zephyr's not about brute force. She wins by staying out of danger and striking from above. That's what makes her different and strong. But Turbulence plus Airbust combo is not only the broken ability of Zephyr, the Warframe also has its Tornado, which is one of the best damage-boosting skills in the game. It spawns up to 4 tornadoes that pull in enemies and toss them around. While inside, enemies are stuck and easy to hit. What makes Tornado strong is how it copies your weapon's damage. When you shoot the Tornado with a status weapon, it picks up that damage type. Then, it spreads that damage to every enemy caught inside. If you shoot it with Corrosive or Viral, the Tornado starts doing that kind of damage. This turns it into a deadly trap. Every enemy inside gets hit over and over by boosted damage. The more enemies it catches, the more damage gets shared. It's not just good for holding targets, it makes your damage go farther. You don't need to shoot each enemy, just shoot the Tornado once and it handles the rest. That's a huge bonus when dealing with large groups or strong units. Damage boosts from Tornado scale well with status builds and crit weapons. The best part is you choose the damage. Aim at the Tornado with your strongest weapon, and it copies your hit. That hit becomes the Tornado's damage for a few seconds. You can refresh it by shooting again. It works great with shotguns, sniper rifles, or anything with high burst. Zephyr turns one big shot into constant damage ticks on everything inside. Add mods like Viral, Slash, or Heat, and you can melt groups fast. Even heavy enemies get shredded if they stay in the Tornado, and since they're being spun around, they don't fight back much. That gives you time to reload, move, or use other powers. It's control and damage in one. You don't need perfect aim either. Tornadoes are big, and enemies can't dodge once they're inside. It keeps pressure on the field and boosts your power without much effort. That's why Zephyr's Tornado isn't just flashy. It's one of her deadliest skills when used right. One of its best combos right now is using the Sampote's Hammer with the Melee Affliction Arcane. The hammer's damage potential becomes insane when the damage gets multiplied by Zephyr's Tornado. Finally, I want to talk about the newest prime in the game. Yoreli's Aqua Blades is a fast and deadly ability that cuts through enemies up close. When you cast it, spinning blades of water surround you. These blades deal slash damage many times each second. Slash damage is strong because it causes bleeding over time. That bleed goes through armor, so even tough enemies drop fast. The blades follow you wherever you move, which makes it easy to stay mobile and kill at the same time. You don't need to aim or stop moving, just run near a target and the blades do the work. In tight spots like hallways or defense points, enemies get sliced before they can react. It's not a flashy nuke, but it's steady and sharp. That makes Aqua Blades great for survival, defense, and any close-range fight. With high ability strength, the damage stacks up quick. Add some duration, and the blades stay active longer. You don't have to keep recasting, which saves energy and time. It's simple, clean, and deadly. What really makes Aqua Blades strong is the Augment mod, Surging Blades. This mod lets you throw a blade forward when you attack. Each throw does a lot of damage and hits enemies in a line. It scales with your power strength, so the more you build for damage, the stronger it gets. You can throw blades fast, and each one hits hard. This turns Aqua Blades from a close-range skill into a ranged weapon. You don't have to wait for enemies to walk into the blades. Now, you can strike first and from far away. It makes the skill more flexible and more dangerous. You can spam throws in tight areas and clear rooms fast. It's not just bleed damage now, it's a burst of slash hits from a distance. That gives Yoreli more control and reach. It also means she can hit tougher enemies before they get close. With Surging Blades, her damage scales better in longer missions. You can keep using the skill and stay strong, even as enemies get harder. The augment adds power, range, and speed, all in one.